season that I had on.
I
and
saw that. Okay.
So
here we go.
Lots of excitement in the LePore household this morning.
That's that guy who like caught on fire, right? That was him.
That was Formula One, yeah. It was Formula One, yeah.
Is that guy back in
Formula
racing?
One, yeah.
Is that guy back in
No,
racing?
he,
Is that guy
he
back
was
in
no,
racing?
he,
Is that
it
guy
didn't look
back
like
in
no,
racing?
he,
Is that
it
guy-
didn't look like
no,
following season. But after that happened, he was just like, well, it's been a good career doing this.
I can't blame him. That was pretty insane. It was really touching. Did you see that video where he like got to walk out and like thank all the rescue people for essentially like pulling him out and like saving his life, and like they all had a lineup and stuff? It was pretty cool. Sakani's pretty into Formula One.
Yeah, I think I vaguely remember him being into this stuff. I did not see that. Was that part of the Netflix?
Oh, I don't know. It was just a Twitter moment. Okay, so I got this going. Seems like everything's good. I can hear all your mics. In like 1 minute, I'm just gonna put it up, and it's gonna be like a 5-minute countdown, and then we'll go live.
Yeah, I'm already running, and I was hoping to have like proper layout, but no, just Zoom.
Just here. I mean, this is. That's what it looks like on. I sent it in the DM. This is what it looks like on my screen. So you're all laid out and have your lower thirds. So should be fine.
Can you fire me a link to where I can do this?
Yeah. Let me quickly mute our mics and go live.
You guys, yeah. When I see all three of the windows together, you guys both look like you're like piping in from the office in the back of a nightclub, and then I'm like it's like noon, the brightest moment of the day. There's no atmosphere.
Okay. Yeah, because once I send you the link, you'll be able to see the chat. Normally, it's never too crazy. It's like maybe like 3 to 5 people.
And can we cancel this thing when the mic mutes by the if someone talks? So mic gonna mute by the Zoom. Do you know how to cancel it?
Do the what thing?
Like if I'm talking and Johnny gonna start talk, we cannot hear him. I worry about
Is that oh.
He gonna like breaking and stuff.
I don't know. I think that's on Johnny. I think that's on your end.
Okay. Yeah, whatever.
Admin setting.
What is all this?
You know that the Zoom mutes the microphone when someone speaks and another one try to interrupt, so you start breaking.
Does that really happen? I've never. I don't think I've ever noticed that before.
Yeah, it's not a big deal. It's alright.
Okay, we are.
Yeah, Isaac, I can see you on the Zoom.
Oops. Okay.
Yeah. Johnny, can you?
Oh yeah, I shut my camera off because it was messing up my thing. So.
All right.
I can try to bring it back on, but I think it glitches out my camera. I guess you would need that for your side, or is it just a photo of me?
Okay, Johnny. We run in Russian community as well, and people are already asking why it's a Zoom, not a Discord.
Hey, I told you I could Discord.
Yeah, no. You told me you're an administrator.
Okay, so we have the countdown going.
Oh yeah, the guy asked like, do we have the same pair of glasses, Johnny? I bought my new one from Warburg Parker. You give me advice to buy from.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Here, Johnny.
I suggested, Warby Parker makes nice glasses. I didn't say try to copy my whole look.
I'm far away from copy your whole look. I need to eat a lot of cakes and stuff.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Let's start that. Okay. I mentioned that I had a plan, Isaac, right? But
Yes.
yeah, I lied to you. I
Oh,
didn't
hey.
have any plan.
I just had on my Isaac looking at your channel. You know what the commercial just was?
Was it GM?
It
Was it
was
the Hummer?
yeah. It
That's
was a
funny.
tease for the Hummer SUV being revealed in about a week.
Nice. Artem, you said that you had a plan and you had your own questions, and then you just said that
Yes,
you lied.
I
You don't have a
did.
plan.
I had a plan, but also I had a freelance to do, and I wasn't able to like
Excuses.
make.
Excuses.
So I had like kind of broad plan to ask you guys, and I'm really happy Johnny joined us. Thank you, Johnny. And in the same place, it's kind of like I'm at work again because of your background.
Yeah, this is like reminding me of all of my meetings.
Yep.
Just getting told that everything's bad and that we should redo it again and just try better and just, really impress us next time.
Yeah.
I would be thrilled if that was your takeaway, as opposed to just the usual comments of just like, hey, this is all great, just do everything faster.
I know that you want to think about this and think through it, but we just need it to be much, much faster. Just really get scrappy.
Gotta live down here in the impulse zone.
It's just so funny. It's like just coming in like, I built this procedurally. You're like, that's technically very cool. Okay, but for what we need, scale it back 8,000 notches, and then that's probably a viable product. We can get that out the door.
So Isaac, you don't stream onto YouTube, right? You just Twitch.
No,
Okay.
I'm a purist.
I restreaming in the 3 platforms. Oh, and you're still not streaming. Okay, it's stream starting. Okay, but Russian people already like seeing us, which is great. Johnny, I guess a couple of people.
Yeah, Artem, pass me your Russian stream so I can see. I can try and Google Translate some of the heinous comments that I'm going to see come up.
People loves you. Somebody remembers you from CG event. You have been there like in 2017 something, right?
Oh, that's nice.
Put us in the MoGraph.
And yesterday I was surprised Twitter has the comment chats.
Of the what?
The messages like group chat something.
Oh.
Yeah, I can do nude in Twitter.
I'm gonna mute yours.
Yeah, Putin doesn't like Twitter.
I look so mysterious on your stream because I don't have anything. I can try to switch it over to.
Yeah, you don't have the
Other camera?
image. Now I can see you.
Yeah, it's just you're gonna get the bad camera.
Wow, your layout's so nice, like the properly lit background and
Everything. It's just when you spend every day in here, you want it to be nice after a while. Just keep buying more things.
do you have donation alert stuff? We can donate some money to Johnny.
You don't need to donate money to me, Artem, because I still have access to your checking account.
Oh yeah, you
Johnny donates money to you.
Isaac, do you know
bi-weekly
do you know
basis.
that story, like how the Russian people are really stupid for American economic system? So all perception stuff has my bank account details.
I think that's most employers.
No. See, what happens was HR sent an email to everyone saying, hey, there's some, changes happening to some stuff, and anyone who wants direct deposit, send me your banking information. And so Artem responded to that email with the
Company-wide.
entire team CC'd on it. Whole
But
company.
it's not
was
my
like,
fault. It's not my fault. She didn't make the like BCC, or how it's called when you not replying to all people in the subject.
So it's her fault because you didn't look and see that when you were replying to the email and specifically choosing to reply all, that reply all included every single one of your coworkers.
I mean, she knows my name. You called me, right? It's before it was smartum.
Okay, I'm gonna start. Ours is going live. I'm gonna do an intro and get this puppy going. Hey everybody, thanks for stopping by. We got 9 people here. I think this is like the most we've ever had at the start of one.
No. Sorry, we have 40 people.
You have 40 people on your side? Sorry, we have, I'm going to introduce them so we can switch over. We have Artem and Johnny, 2 people I've worked with last year, and we can switch over to see their view now. And Artem's gone.
Sorry, I just lied. Hello, everybody.
Hey. So you said we had 40 people on your side?
It's still, yeah, it's going to be more.
Why is it going to be more?
I asked Putin to like call everybody in the Russia, so they're gonna join us in the chat.
So we're gonna get taken down like immediately.
No, we're totally good.
Okay, so this is an interesting setup. We're doing a dual stream. So Artem is also streaming to all of his Russian fan base because he's a massive big vlogger. Russian space. I do like your vlogs a lot. How long do they take? Because they seem like they're gonna take like weeks to make all of the like little motion graphics you add to them.
It's actually not that kind of like effort. It depends of the motivation I have. Like sometimes so for example, when I just moved to USA, Johnny knows, like I had like almost every week I had a vlog just because like I was so excited to be here. And then like last year hit all like really hard, and I wasn't able to like motivate myself to make it. And basically I just, every vlog I did kind of like After Effects template with the old titles, all the ideas, and some of the ideas with a lot of CG, they were like year ago or something, so it was basically just like on top of the current ideas. But thank you for your, like, you were able to watch the whole Russian.
I mean, yeah, I gotta put the CCs on and like read essentially your video, but every now and then there's like that one little American word.
We just,
you have subtitles now?
yeah, on some of them, yeah. Whereas, so you know, Doug was actually in 2 of my vlogs, and I had to do the Russian subtitles and English as well. We just got donate from Adolf Hitler. Sorry, guys. Yeah, it was nickname.
Rough.
Jeez.
Okay, let's introduce each other, or you can introduce yourself. So Johnny, introduce yourself, kind of for anyone that doesn't know you that's coming here, kind of who you are and what you do and where you are, and then we can have Artem do it, and then we can get going.
Sure. So my name's John LePore. I'm the chief creative director at a studio called Perception. Through working at Perception, I've had the opportunity to work with a whole bunch of super talented artists, including these 2 gentlemen that I'm talking to right now.
Yeah. I worked with you guys almost the entirety of last year. Just
for well, you were working with us, I think, through all of 2020. You were working with us right.
I started like Jan 21st, yeah.
Okay.
And then like went all the way to like December 15th, so nearly the entire year.
Yeah, that was and yeah, wild ride to kind of, you know, stay with us through the going remote and and all of that. But yeah, it's been awesome having, you know, I feel very fortunate that the last year was busy enough that we had enough work going on, and that we also had, you know, it's really nice for me that when we have freelancers, we have some folks that can stick around for a long haul, because I think it helps. You know, I hope it was helpful for you to kind of get into like the mind space of how we do what we do, and you obviously had some long runs on some projects, but also got to like bounce around and see I think a pretty well-rounded view of what we do at Perception.
Yeah, I think I touched like both sides of that slider, where it was like automotive all the way to like feature film stuff in like the lightest like supporting way, but like even to parts where like for some reason one day I had like 2 hours and someone needed like a little bit of a help on like a VFX like key in a shot, so it's just like, okay, spend like 2 hours trying to help that like green screen like get keyed out better, and then jump back onto something else. And it's like just very weirdly like everybody being able to support each other is like a cool thing about the space, because everyone's pretty much like pretty rounded and like all generalists, because there's just so many problems. So it's hard to like have like, I mean, there's some people that are insanely good at some specific stuff, but everyone seems to have like a good base knowledge. But Artem, okay, that's where I met you. Was we started our Jan 21st of last year, and there are all these crazy Russians there doing all their crazy Russian hack and UI.
Yeah,
But,
Vlad was there as well, right? You had the pleasure to meet that guy.
I did have the esteemed honor of meeting Vlad.
It's always referred to as the pleasure of meeting Vlad.
No, I also had the pleasure of working with Vlad and then realizing that I'm just uber slow. When I was like, here's my one idea, he's like, yeah, here's 25 ideas that I had in the past like 5 minutes that I cooked up. And I was like, okay,
yeah,
cool.
and he does it while he's speaking with his mother and wife back in Moldova.
Yeah. But yeah, how did you start to work with perception, Artem?
I guess Jeremy approached me when I was having fun in my hometown in Russia, and I was working for you, Johnny, freelancing for a couple projects, right? It was Nike and GM, probably. It was something automotive, and I was really shocked by like I can do actual stuff which work in life. I mean, the people gonna use that, not just like watching my cute videos and stuff. And then I got a offer from Jeremy, and I came to America. It was like I still like feel like I'm tourist and stuff, but yeah, it's basically they just found me online, and I shoot email in motiongrapher.com, and here we are in the same glasses.
The same glasses. I have those glasses too. I'm just not wearing them.
I had because of the pandemic, I wear this shit for couple months, because
like readers or cheaters. What are those?
I don't know. I broke those things, and I couldn't go get my new glasses. And I was wearing, can you imagine speaking with the client, hello guys, here's my ideas. So yeah.
Can you imagine that, Johnny?
They could be glasses or a belt.
I don't wear belts. Okay, guys. I don't like this silence when I do stupid jokes and you fuck your face. Everybody in the chat, in Russian chat, they supporting me.
I'm stalling out because I have so many, I haven't talked to you in so long, Artem, and I have so many memories and stories and thoughts that come to mind.
That's why I kind of wanted to bring you on as a supporting role in because I mean didn't Artem live with you, or was that Vlad that lived with you, or did they both at some point? Didn't they?
No, there was nobody.
Vlad lives with I forgot his name. He working at Google now. He was in Jersey. Oh no, Justin. God, he lived with Justin.
Was Vlad staying with Justin?
Yeah, for a couple of weeks. Vlad tend to be living in all the boroughs of New York City.
Yeah, I always. It's interesting because I feel like you and Vlad, you both came to Perception around the same time, and you seem to have this amazing experience where you went out, you found a Russian landlord in the Rockaways, and you were like, I've got an apartment that is by the beach, and there's all these other Russians that hang out there. And I would talk to Vlad, and he would just be like, I'm renting a coffin that I sleep in at night, and I hear terrible noises happening in all the apartments that are all around me, and I have to leave in 2 more weeks and go to a different coffin where there's also horrible things happening all around. I've seen many different people that have come to New York and had a wide variety of experiences, from hey, this is awesome, to I've got my landlord is also one of my roommates and is constantly like threatening all of the other roommates with violence and, all sorts of like horrifying, terrible stuff that, it's just, I guess that's New York. You kind of spin the wheel and see what you get.
Commuted from the Rockaways into Midtown every day?
Yeah, but Johnny commutes from.
I mean, I know. New Jersey,
it's like the same,
farther.
like an hour or something. But you have like cozy train with the beer in it, and I have I have a train with 37 stops.
Right, yeah.
But
okay,
I mean, I spent like in total, I'm spent like 2 years in America and 1 year just being under pandemic at home. So yeah, and as I told, like I was still like a tourist, and for me it was fun to travel like every day hour in New York City. And after some time, yeah, I was feeling bad because of it, but it was still fun for me. So yeah, it wasn't a big deal. Okay,
so,
guys,
Isaac,
see you. What?
Isaac, what do you normally do on this stream? Is it normally chatting, or are you normally like going through project files and stuff? What?
No. So these ones are just chatting and kind of like general questions about like getting caught up on like how artists got to where they are now, and any kind of history about that, and then some just general questions about their future and like different things they're working on. But this is a little bit more interesting because I've only done the two guest thing once, and they were both like from the same sort of like, they were both coworkers at Google. So this is a little bit. Oh, you followed me 18 hours ago. Is that you, OTVD?
Yeah, it's me.
Okay. But yeah, that's normally what it is. So like, I don't know, however you guys want to approach it. We could just focus on Artem, and Johnny can give fun little backstories because you've been with him like when he's came over to work with you guys, or it could go for both of you, just however you want.
I can go through the like basic idea was to, like compare freelance and office, and I had like a couple questions to Johnny. You spent like 15 years working in office, right? You never freelancing.
Mm-hmm. I did freelance when I was very early in my career and bounced around a bunch of places. But yeah, I've been married to perception for a long time.
Yeah, and
what like number higher were you? Because like I remember there's like obviously like the original two founders.
Yeah, so I actually don't know what number higher I was, but the studio opened in 2001, and I came aboard in February 2006 as like a freelancer. I basically spent like a full year permalancing, and there was a few times where they were like, hey, why don't you join full time and whatnot. I was like, no, I gotta sow my freelance oats. I gotta see the world and do all of that stuff. And after 10 or 11 months of that, I kind of realized like, well, I'm enjoying working here. Like I like the kind of projects that are coming through. I really liked the people that I was working with and enjoyed working with the owners and whatnot. And more than anything, I was really curious to kind of get a little deeper under the hood of just how the business is run and how the creative process works from end to end, and not just be like, all right, we just want to pitch on project X, so start moving into the production on that. And I wanted to get a little more focused on like, well, how are we coming up with these ideas in the first place, and how are we working with the earliest seeds of the process with the clients and all of that. So I jumped on full time and kind of never looked back. And also just the environment at Perception, we tend to, it's kind of been a cultural thing, like where we like to hand as much responsibility to team members as they can effectively handle. And so the owners kept feeding me more and more responsibility, like to an almost reckless, degree. And I loved that. I thought it was awesome. And it allowed me to kind of like level up really quickly and make my way from, just being a freelance designer to being, like the main designer at the studio, and then the art director and the creative director, and so on and so forth.
Cool. How did you, Artem, how did you get into this? Like, was it like Did you go to college for it, or?
No, and this is the main question I wanted to ask you. You both went to design school, right?
Mm-hmm.
And my first question, so I didn't, and like vast majority of Russian designers didn't as well, because we didn't have them, and we still don't have them. And first question to Johnny. Oh, and I just answered on that. Sorry, I was asking like, is it possible to person who didn't want to go to design school became like creative director or like whatever top position on the design studio? And I remember Russ, he never been to school, right?
What did Russ never go to school? Maybe. I mean, yeah, absolutely. Like, I don't think anyone needs to go to school to do anything in this industry. Like, if it helps you get there and it helps you level up your skills and get into the right mindset to be effective in this industry, then that's great. But I have hired many people over the years without even thinking to ask them about what their education was like. Like,
Okay.
it's and I feel like we're in a really fortunate space, both as, you know, both in this industry, but also just as like humans doing a job, where I feel like the amount of value that you bring to the table is very clear. It's very transparent. It's very easy. And I kind of, you know, I attribute a lot of that to the fact that, like, working in this industry, I feel like there's always been, and I don't know what your guys' experiences have been like, but doing this work, which can be really difficult, I feel like there's always been really positive vibes around, and everybody's pretty easy to work with or collaborate with, because there's a whole lot of bullshit that doesn't need to exist, that I think all is just surrounding, like, well, do I deserve to be in my position? How do I make sure other people know that I like deserve to be doing what I'm doing and whatnot? Like, it's all very transparent. It's all very clear. And we can all like tell from each other what we bring to the table. And I feel like it's, you know, I even see like a big difference between like when you're working in a studio environment, there's, you know, your artists, and then you've got maybe like a production team or project managers or producers or whatnot. And those folks, whether they're good or whether they're bad, they have a lot more kind of like bullshit that they have to deal with, because it's a lot harder to tell on that side of the fence, like who's really competent, who's really like making the projects work and flow and
Right.
and happen and whatnot.
Yeah, it's a lot less clear, like kind of things that you can check it by based on like, you know, output or like results from something, where like a lot of us are just like kind of, when you boil it down, just problem solvers. So it's like, can you solve the problems? Oh, you have solved the problems, cool, so you must be doing well, or else like that wouldn't, like we would have like issues and things wouldn't be getting done. But on the other side, it's like very dependent on like, you know, social things, or like uh personable like issues with different things, where it's like, you know, a director could just be like hard to work with, so it's like not the producer's fault that this is like just not going like the way that they wanted to, or like, you know, a client just like leaves, and it's like, oh well, I mean, it's like hard to pinpoint on like why these things are happening.
I mean, even like I tend to find, especially when you're in a situation where there's like pitching going on, and there's almost never a situation where like a pitch is lost and then everybody's like, oh well, the people that worked on the pitch, they lost the pitch. Like, everybody's still like, no, actually the stuff we did, like, we still thought it was cool, because we can look at it, we can appreciate it, and be like, we just didn't get it. There's a number of different reasons why you don't get a pitch, and therefore like you're not evaluating the artist's worth based on, you know, well, are they, you know, bringing in specific amounts of business, are they whatever. It's a lot more just sort of like, well, do I like what they're making and what they're doing and whatnot. Which again, I'm super thankful that in this industry, like, that transparency exists. And I think it saves like a whole lot of like weird amorphous like ego baggage that comes in a lot of other workspaces.
We got a question in the chat from Jeff. He says, do they rely on word of mouth or reels to find collaborators? And I would assume I could also say that that's probably like a question of like, Johnny, when you're looking like through the myriad of designers out there, like what kind of, like, I know that you reached out on Twitter, and that's kind of how we started. Like, I like perception was like a thing where I was like, oh yeah, they're like in New York too. Like, you were just kind of like happened to reach out on DMs, be like, we would love to have you in, like whenever that could work. And I was like, okay, cool. Like now you're on my radar. But yeah, I'm sure Artem's following would also be pretty interested to see like how did you pick Artem? Like where did that come from? That kind of stuff.
So when it comes to finding talent, I am almost always desperate to find talent. Like I am, there is no singular stream or approach or whatnot that I take. I wish I had a line out the door at all times of awesome, talented people who are, you know, competent and savvy and available and whatnot. But for me, the fact of the matter is, like, I'm just always on the hunt. It's really, for me, it's really difficult to find the right kind of people. It's really difficult to find people that mesh with the very specific kind of stuff that we do at Perception. And so to me, like, I hunt for every avenue. Like, we'll put an ad on Motionographer and we'll get a giant dump of resumes to filter through. I'll hunt on Twitter or anywhere else, you know, looking for stuff. I will ask everyone else on the team to help me with tracking folks down and whatnot. So for me, it's always, you know, there's no particular avenue or technique that I'm dependent on. It's all of them. And, you know, the best thing that happens is when people just, you know, reach out to us, tell us, you know, ways that they think that they are, you know, applicable to the kind of work that we do, because I consider us to be relatively specialized and focused on some work. And that's the thing that, like, that makes me a happy boy or makes it a lot easier for me. But quite frankly, staffing and resourcing is one of the most important things that I do at Perception, and it's almost the single most difficult thing that I do at Perception.
That says a lot about how hard that is. Not about anything else. It's just like you have a lot of other things you're doing. I'm curious, Artem, kind of maybe you can like look back at when you did get like the offer to come freelance, like what were you doing at the time that you think maybe like caught someone's eye or got you noticed? Was it like a reel that you had just like, have you been putting out reels up till then? Did you have like a portfolio site, mostly like Instagram, Twitter? Like what were you kind of doing at that time?
I guess the biggest thing I had and I still have, it's showreel, and I don't have like proper website. I don't have like pretty Behance page, or I'm not active in Twitter because like I got Twitter a couple months ago, first time for me, and I guess showreel worked. I mean, Johnny can tell. Like I don't know who chose me, but probably it's this pretty young man.
So I think Jeremy had passed me your stuff, and I forget what it was. It was probably like your Behance page or something, and we're just like, yeah, it seems pretty cool. And I think we brought you on some projects. I think the very first one that we brought you on was maybe the top secret Nike thing that we did a while back, but that was probably like a super challenging project. And I think for us, we were like, all right, well, let's see if he can nail this one, then let's talk about having him come over and join the team in New York.
Yeah, and
you did a great job. I'm pretty sure you found, like, you went on Behance and then found somebody else that you paid to do the job for you. Right?
Yeah, that's how it works, because like you realized that when I came to Perception, right?
He was outsourcing it all on Fiverr and just, you know, praying that.
And looking back into this super secret project and the time we're living in now, they knew.
Yeah, I don't want to get into it, but yeah, it's very it's bizarre.
Did Artem have to stay in that super secret like room where they don't get to see sunlight and they have their phones outside? Was it that top secret or no?
I told you I was living in my hometown. I already wasn't just in the
this was
sunlight.
It's super top secret stuff, but it wasn't at that level And yeah, it was something that Artem was able to help us out with on the other side of the world.
Yeah, and the whole situation with perception for me was so excited because like, hey, Americans approached me, a super secret project. I spoke to Johnny first time, and I remember like I was sweating like a fat pig. Sorry, Johnny. No, I mean, no, I didn't mean that, but it was really exciting to speak to American guy and got this like huge project, and I was like googling how to properly set the redshift render, how to like and everything like yet perception for me was for the first time, like Spider-Man and this kind of like huge project for me was for the first time. And one of the questions, Johnny, for you was like, as the seniors in perception, Doug and you have to deal with guys like me, like they came from overseas, they barely speak English, they kind of, I was new to this kind of like amount of work and organization, and I saw people struggling because of that. And how are you dealing with this? I mean, you like, I learned from you and from Doug a lot, and now I have at least I have a notebook with a list of notes. Before it was like, okay, I'll do, and 2 days later he asked me why you didn't do that. Oh, I just forgot. Sorry.
So, I mean, you touch on a few different things, one of which is just being, generally incompetent and not remembering to write down the notes that are being given to you. So I'm glad that I'm glad you took that away from your experience at Perception. The other thing you touch on is like, there's a lot of, especially when we're working on a film project, you mentioned Spider-Man Far From Home. There's a ton of crazy technical stuff that comes into the process with how you're packaging, how you're formatting, how you're arranging, how you're organizing your projects and delivering the files and the renders and whatnot. And that stuff is so critical that if you're not doing any of that stuff, it kind of like clogs up the pipes or screws up the whole system as a whole. And the good news is that stuff is it's just basic following directions. It's just that there's a lot of directions to follow. And we're all, especially as creative artists, we're maybe a little used to taking liberties with some of those directions or guidance that's provided to us. And so I think for us in the studio, the hardest thing is just making sure that people understand that like there's parts of this where you can have fun and you can express yourself and you can solve problems in new and interesting ways. And then there's other parts of it where if you do something wrong, our client basically says like, you guys are working on 100 shots. ILM is working on 1,000 shots. They haven't screwed this up once, and you guys have screwed it up multiple times. Stop being immature, rookie idiots and get it straight. So we have to take that stuff super seriously and just hope that the team can handle that stuff. And so it is tricky because it, again, like our criteria then becomes not just like people who are clever and creative, people who can combine that with a certain amount of like technical knowledge and be able to translate that into stuff that ties into the core ideas that make projects successful. And then on top of that, people have incredible quality control and like the ability to track all these different little areas that need to be checked off and lined up just right. Otherwise, no matter how good the creative is, we still end up looking like dummies.
I think that goes back into what Artem was saying, is that like, I think not to the extent of like, I had never taken notes before when getting feedback to finally doing that, but like I do like catch myself doing that more because there were so many, like, especially I wasn't working on like the more film side, but just more on the like automotive side for a long time. Like they have very specific things they need to hit just because like legal issues of like people, are using this in like a vehicle or like a big machine that things need to be like sound and good and up to snuff, like legally, or else I can get in trouble. So just like paying attention to those like amount of details, and like always doing like a QC on your end, and like stuff slips through the crack, but like there's enough like barriers before it goes out the door that normally it's like good. But yeah, I think like taking notes when it's like, maybe your art director on like other things where it's like, it's just like an ad for something. It's like maybe you don't have to hit these things, but it's like, hey, this is the third time I've asked you to like make sure this is like this set font size because we legally need to do that. You're like, oh yeah, like it doesn't seem big, but like being able to like track all those notes and then implement them and turn them around is like something that like I learned like a lot more importance, because before that my stuff was like, it doesn't matter if it's a Duncan social post that like has like something like a little bit off because it's not that high stakes, but it's like when it's a UI in a car that someone's gonna need to have consistency on, then it does different stuff like that. So I agree with that, Artem, is that perception to teach a lot of like of those QC kind of just be better at managing yourself sort of things.
Yeah, as Johnny mentioned, like we have to be serious about that job, and I guess Johnny had a really bad time with me because I was kind of treating motion graphics like, hey, let's do some fun shit, and I was curing this problem in me for a while, especially on Spider-Man, which was like really, he gave like hard time for a lot of artists around the world, and I was just like, oh, we're doing glowing shit, let's render in the same folder, like 2 different paths, and okay, we lost a couple images, and that was really bad.
You also instilled I don't know about you, Artem, but like a version up like PTSD tick in myself, where like I'll version up like 3 times in a row just to make sure that it's a version up and I don't overwrite something previously, because there's just I've never been somewhere where like you just need like to just make sure that like even if it that like there's only one little change and you can resave a version, like never overwriting versions, because they'll definitely come back like 6 months later and be like, we actually like X, Y, and Z out of like V00 like 465. Can you pull that up and like implement that into this one? You're like, oh no, I saved over that just because I thought we were like kind of done with it and moved on. So it's just like that paranoia is like stuck with me just due to like how much Johnny would just be like, make sure we version up before we do all these new note changes. And it's just somewhere that like, I don't know if that happened to you too, Artem.
For the like first before perception, yeah, definitely it happened. Like I had like PST final 0001 and yeah, it didn't work out. But I remember the night I had to stay because we messed up the name of a lot of in the file convention, and we need to rename them just like because it's gonna be faster instead of re-rendering that in the proper folder. And I learned that lesson for the rest of my life, I guess.
Well, these are all easy things to do, right? Like they're all simple things. And once you just have them as routine or habit, it's muscle memory. But I think it's, it's also really critical that like every artist, if you're in this thing as a business and you're dedicated to giving your clients the stuff that they need, there's a certain point at which you need to be empathetic to their point of view and their perspective of this stuff. And to them, if they're like, you know what, I liked the version 3 versions ago more, but just change this, there should be no reason for them to think that like that was set on fire and thrown away, and that it's not just like a file that can't just be opened really quickly and made some tweaks made to it in order to solve whatever problem they have. It's all it's all part of the puzzle, but like I think of it as just like it's kind of part of like project hygiene. Like there's a certain degree to which you do that as a base level, and then it makes everything work smoother. And then of course it makes it a million times easier to collaborate with your coworkers and colleagues and whatnot as well.
Cool. Do you have any other questions for everyone, Artem?
I have a bunch of questions.
Shoot.
Yeah, they kind of like my jokes. You didn't like? but that's why I got donates and you didn't. Okay. GGVP Berg. Guys, tell me what to do. I'm studying for interface design in Germany. At first, it was interesting for me to integrate 3D elements into the interfaces, but now I realized that this is my, because it's in capital letters, 3D modeling and anemia, I guess animation. Question, is it worth moving to another faculty, communication design or product design? Thanks in advance. Did you understand my?
So I think I have a vague understanding. It sounds like
I thought the guy wants to switch
WP
faculties.
Yeah. He's studying interface design right now, but wants to integrate 3D and is trying to figure out if he should move to another section of the school or whatnot.
He was integrating 2D UI interfaces into 3D, and he realized he likes 3D more than 2D interfaces. He want to switch to 3D faculty.
Yeah, I mean, school, you're paying for school, so you gotta sometimes you gotta force school to give you what you want out of it. And even when I was in school, motion design wasn't even a thing. It wasn't a concept. There was no 3D, there was no 2D, there was no class where anybody said the word keyframes to you. So when I was in school, getting a very traditional graphic design degree, I found every different way that I could to say hey, for this project, I'm going to make, an animation piece, or I'm going to set up an independent study with one of my professors, where I'm going to get deeper into animation or After Effects or whatever it was. And so I think, if you have to jump to different, a different focus or different courses or work with different professors, absolutely do it. If you can't do that, find ways to work it into the work that you're doing. I'm super interested in that hybrid of kind of motion design and interactive. And, I think there's a lot of interesting things there that are super applicable when it comes to even if you were just studying, say, web design, there's still a lot that you could do with bringing 3D into that and building that into your work and into your process. But, it's you're paying for it. So you got to make it work for you, not just fall in line with whatever pathway they're trying to shove you down.
He said, thank you, I got a lot of motivation. Seiji just enjoyed our YouTube. I guess it's my stream on YouTube. Hey, Seiji.
Hey.
You mentioned something and I wanted to ask some and I forgot. Okay. Whatever.
I'm curious what your experience was like, Artem, working on your your first feature film, because I know that it's pretty it's a tight ship to run, because it's obviously you were saying there's lots of other moving parts and you have to kind of conform to the piece that you need to play in the bigger picture, and being able to get files from someone, hand files out to another person, and make sure it's all a cohesive unit. How was that? Was it pretty jarring to start? Because I came in and I worked more commercial side, which is less kind of like that, a lot more kind of the traditional, I would say, motion design pipeline.
Yeah.
But film obviously has a lot stricter rules, and you're working with ILM and other compositors and that sort of thing.
So I came from 3D mapping projects, which has a lot of dealing with another departments when you need to hand your project files. But excitement of the working on the feature film was for me it was kind of a holiday every day. I was happy to just to touch that, but when you do pretty picture of glowing Spidey costume on top of in After Effects, just in the how you call it, add mode, the multiply mode,
additive, yeah,
and then producer says to you, you need to do like 8 frames, the handles on the sequence. Then you need to rename the like 1,000 files. Then you need to change the color space you worked in. And this node costume we had like the latest version of it. We need to update that. And it just became like, I spent 2 hours designing thing, and I spent like 4 hours preparing things to give it to the editor in Marvel. And my mood became like, whoa, to, oh fuck. And this is like the whole feature films. I was like working on them in that kind of mood. Yeah, and then I got to this secret project when I met you, I guess, because I was, most of the time I was in this room, and we kind of, we didn't speak to each other.
And emerge from the dungeon, and then you would just be like gone again. I was like, huh, I wonder what's going on in there. Interesting. Do you think that was that just because it was your first feature film? Like, was it? It's definitely probably gotten easier now that you know, like, oh, this is the color space. Oh, this is like the naming conventions. I would assume that like on your next one, or like the most recent, like you worked on the Falcon and Winter Soldier main on end. So I'm assuming that like by now it's maybe a little bit more streamlined and a little less of like 4 hours renaming stuff, probably, right? Or no?
Yeah, it's I couldn't afford myself to do the same stupid mistakes after like one project, because like yeah, sorry Johnny, can you like don't do that, because people assuming you're really bored. And they said this guy wants to drink something, you guys boring.
This is like I'm sitting here admiring, you know, everything that I'm soaking in from you, Artem. This is like here. Is it better?
Yeah,
if
it's
I'm
the
like,
double hands is much better.
Yeah, my boy.
That's intrigued. That's funny.
Yeah, when it, like, I was working alongside with Doug, and there is no room to make this kind of mistake, because Doug is like kindest person I ever met in my life, and if Doug gets mad, you screwed up. Like, even Doug, like, okay, in my notebook there is no this name for this title. Why did you do that? And he asks you like in a really like calm way, and I just like started to sweat again. So yeah, after second movie, it was much more easy to and straightforward to keep files in a proper naming.
I'm pretty sure I witnessed a couple scenarios where, you know, Doug would catch some glitch or something that you made, and you would try and bullshit your way out of it and explain that, like, no, but it's not really a problem because of this. And it was just you just basically saying like, no, water isn't wet and the sky isn't blue. When you're working on these projects, it is like, you know, that stuff, it's those things are difficult, but like, I don't know, I don't think of any of them as being a pain or, you know, depressing to work with or whatnot, because it's just kind of like when you want to play at that level, you have to have your shit together. You know, you've got to be on top of all of these things. And so for us, it's, I think everyone probably, you know, when you're working on this stuff, there's high expectations that might bring, you know, personal anxieties with it or whatnot. And I think we all strive to outperform those little gotchas and those little, you know, glitches or little errors or whatnot that we might try and just kind of like, you know, sweep under the rug, you know, as more junior artists or whatnot. But I think it's a critical thing that, you know, you stay on top of that stuff. And again, that stuff is like, it's hygiene. Like, as long as you're used to it, you're not like, oh God, every morning I have to climb into a shower and pour hot water onto myself and then rub abrasive soap on my body. Like, once it's routine, like it's you don't think of anything of it, and you start to like enjoy it, or it starts to be like the lead up to the like, okay, I'm like I'm getting all my framework set up, and now I can dive in and focus on the exciting problem solving, the fun parts of this, and not have your time eaten up by all that
Mhm.
other stuff. And that's the thing. Like for us as a studio, it is a very frustrating thing when we run into problems in that space and when people don't like appreciate that those things are problems because they have to be dealt with. They're so mandatory. Like they are mandatory to the point of like if you're not handling this stuff, the people at the studio, like the director of the film will see the shot and will be like, I love the creative that's in here. This is wonderful. But before it gets to the director, there's like there's so many layers of other people that are going to look at it who are told, like, I have no right to decide if I like this or don't like this. I'm just here to see if there's anything wrong with it, if there's anything off, if there's one thing that's like a millimeter out of place, it's my job to be like, I'm here in this chain of command to call out that the black bars are like 3 pixels too tight at the top and bottom of the frame. And you better not fuck that up again, losers. So send it one more time and fix those black bars, you know? Like, so if you can get around that stuff, it makes the process possible to enjoy again.
Cool. Artem, any other ones that you have coming through yours?
I guess it comes to you about freelancing. Why you're freelancing, not stuffing?
Me?
Yeah, Johnny's in his stuff.
Yeah, Johnny's been staff for a bit. Johnny actually knows this because obviously if you like permalance somewhere a while, they're gonna come by and be like, what do you want to just do this for real? Like actually work with us like full time? And I essentially just had to give like the same response that Johnny gave, I guess, the first time that Perception like asked him if he wanted to go staff. It's just like I have an issue of permalancing places because I get just comfortable with the teams, and I'm just like, if we can keep booking, like I'll just keep staying here because it's fun. So like previously, before I was at Perception, I was at a place that I was like fairly familiar with, Imaginary Forces, and I was with them for about 6 months, and then I was with Perception for like a year, and I was like, I just need to like try to do more quick turnarounds and like get a feel for some more like studios out here. So I've been trying to not just go back to studios I've already worked with, work with new ones. And so that's kind of been this year. Is like I went back to Imaginary Forces for a bit, and then I'm at the mill now, and it is interesting to see kind of which style or flavor is nice, and there's like different things of each one, and that's what I'm like excited about to learn. Like we were saying, like all these file structure things are like a little bit more on you inside of Perception to like make sure that you're in the right thing. But just like went to the mill, and it's just so different because they're too big for that to be a thing that artists have to do. So like you quite literally can't mess it up because they have so many tools for you. Like inside of Cinema or After Effects, like I never save the way that we save normally. It's all these built-in tools that like pretty much keep you confined to like working inside a folder structure that will like stand the test of time and never ever ever mess up. So it's kind of nice once you get used to it, but it also took me about like 3 days of reading like PDFs to like figure out exactly how I was supposed to be saving stuff and all of that sort of thing. So there's more on ramping and less like running and gunning, but things like that are interesting to that like maybe when you get at that like huge scale of a company, because they're pretty massive, like you have to work in a bit tighter, much more a single role. Whereas like my last job I did with you guys at Perception was like 1,000 hats, and just like kind of like everyone on the team was like, let's see if we can do it and pull it off. That'd be cool. Like let's just put faith in a very small team to kind of like keep this thing and like push it across the finish line, which is fun, in its own right, and kind of like feels a lot more like in the trenches together on stuff. So I like still finding that, and there's a bunch of places that kind of will reach out, and because I'm permalanced, I'll just be like, I'm actually booked for like a good 4 months, and they're like, okay, cool, we'll talk to you next year, I guess, and see if we can bring you on. So until until people stop asking, I'll probably just keep freelancing, and then if I find a place that after a couple of years seems like I keep returning to, or really like the people there, then I'll look at staff. But that's the reason that I'm freelance. It's just I need to date a lot of studios to see who I want to sit down and marry for 25 years like Johnny.
Well, I think it's and I usually suggest to people when they're really young, like get out and freelance around quite a bit because you can find that range of experiences. But also at the same time, if you can find a place where they are going to invest in you or kind of level you up during your time there, it's not a bad idea. The thing that you have to avoid at all costs is being somewhere where you go staff and they're just like, perfect, we found like a mid to junior level person who can handle all the crap work, and we're just going to keep piling that onto that person in perpetuity. And if they get really good at it, then that's great because that work gets done much better as opposed to, and if they get really good at it, then they're ready to move on to bigger challenges and other responsibilities and whatnot.
I'm kind of curious about that, because you didn't come on as like the role like that you are now. You weren't brought on as, you were kind of like put up to be that at the end of it, just like moving up the ranks, which I think is cool to like be brought on lower level and not like have a creative director like hired from outside. Like they just definitely invested in you over those years to get you to like where you are now, where it's like you're very familiar with the company, very familiar with like the legacy and stuff. So I'm curious if it might be good to kind of maybe share your experience from going kind of like designer, where it's like, you couldn't even conceptually wrap your head around like all the tasks that are required by like a creative director, or like how anyone even gets to that point. But I mean that's where kind of your career has gone. So like, what do you think is like advice or like things that you can talk to about kind of starting as a even like a senior designer and then converting over to eventually being like a creative director?
So I think it depends on the environment that you're in, but I always like it when there's people that come aboard a project, and even if let's say it's a junior or mid-level person that we bring aboard, and we're just like, hey, we need you to help out on this piece of the project, and then that person is in every conversation around the project, whether it's directly with them or not with them, is still kind of like peeking over the fence and is just like, wait, what if we tried this? Oh, hey, haven't you seen this thing? Oh, this project could be taken to the next level if we try this or this or this, even though I don't even know how to do that. Like, what if we could steer it this way or whatnot? And so that was kind of always my my thing. I was very, very passionate, or just like obnoxiously enthusiastic about the work that we're doing, and just always trying to figure out, like, when a project comes in, even if it's like, hey, this is a thing that we need to get done quickly and efficiently for client X, I would be like, oh, if we did this, we could make it award winning, and just keep pushing at every opportunity that there was to level these projects up. And so that kind of drive leads me into being nosy or pushy in like every part of the project, in the process, and ultimately the business as a whole. And I think that helped because I was able to make suggestions or even just take a lot of actions on my own that helped projects, helped processes, helped relationships, helped logistics and whatnot. And that was something that certainly was critical to me leveling up. And at Perception, we don't have like really rigid walls between each role or position on the team. It's kind of like we collectively are like, all right, we've got 10 different projects going on right now. So on, this project, we've got these people. How is everybody going to be able to just bounce off of each other and work with each other to take the project as far as we can? And that is helped tremendously when people, see kind of that window or that opportunity to take a little extra responsibility and grab a hold of it and push themselves further with the process. So and that's kind of created another sort of cultural thing at Perception, which is almost exclusively when someone is promoted to to a higher level, it's because they've already been doing the job that they've been promoted to, or they're already exhibiting, those responsibilities and that level of expertise. The job.
Yeah, I think that's very cool. I've been at definitely other places that's not the case, and you kind of like come into work today as a senior designer, you're like, hey, here's your new art director who is not familiar with any of this, and yeah, just listen to them and their vision. You're like, oh, I'd much rather be like my colleague who got promoted and like I already know how to work with, and like has already like shown that I like can trust with all these things. Do you remember at all what your first thing you like directed was, and if you were like absolutely terrified of the process, or were you so comfortable at that time that you're just like, oh yeah, this seems natural?
Oh no, I mean every time that I've like taken on a bigger bite than I had previously, it was always, something that generated a lot of anxiety or stress or whatnot going into it. And I tend to bring up quite a bit with senior level designers and art directors and whatnot, that transitioning from being a creative on the box to being someone who's giving direction is a really difficult transition to make. And when I bring this up, I do tend to get people that respond to me and tell me that they went through a similar experience. But effectively, when you're on the box and you're making stuff, it gets back into what I was talking about earlier, where you can very much see your tangible value right in front of you. It's also very satisfying. Like, I think we all get a huge amount of satisfaction from doing this work. I think it's why so many people are really driven in this field and spend a lot of their personal time reinvesting into their abilities and their skill, because it's something that is like, it's pleasurable to us to have an idea in our mind and be able to execute it, and be able to execute it in a way that you're happy with or even exceeds your expectations. When you start moving into directing, it is not satisfying at all. That sort of like, you don't necessarily feel that sense of ownership that you felt. And like, when you're a high level senior designer and a project comes out that you worked on, you look at that project and you're just like, I owned all of those shots, or like, these pieces of this thing wouldn't have been possible at all without my contribution. I took it from a new comp, window in After Effects or in C4D or whatever, to the thing that is now playing on your television screen. And when you're just kind of like nudging people along and saying like, a little more like this and a little less like that, and try to do this and whatnot, you can look at it and the initial feeling is like, oh, that project came out beautifully, and really at the end of the day, it was all Artem. It was all Artem, making the stuff happen. It was all Isaac's beautiful renders that made that happen. And it took me a while before I was comfortable with the idea of owning, like, well, actually, like, some of the nudging and some of the guidance and some of the direction that I'm providing is helping them get to, the end point and whatnot. And even still today, I'm pretty confident that like, if I just went on vacation for the entire duration of the project, I would come back and everyone would make something that's really awesome and really beautiful and cool. But it does take a bit to appreciate that, that sort of guidance, the strategy and the insight helps these things, in a way that you can feel is somewhat tangible.
Yeah, I can definitely kind of see how that. Yeah, because it's always hard that when you like look at a creative director, it's like a little bit hard to tell how they came to that role. And like, a lot of times you'll be like, I'll try to really quickly like rough this out in C4D for you and like get some like MVP out that like I can show this idea, so you can like tell that like obviously you're not like, you don't need to be like a master at every piece of it, but like you are rooted in like thinking of it the way that like the artist would, versus some other people that kind of come from it and like have no idea what like the artist is, or the software the artists use, but they just have like the vision to like help, like they can direct based on what they see, but not really like on how it was made. And I feel like that's like a very different kind of creative director that I've experienced at a couple of places, and it's just like it's always a little bit more fun to have someone that's like, you know, started somewhere similar to you and can kind of talk the language to you in a way where it's like, you know, they're not like, I don't know, move the line. It's like, actually the spline needs to be like a little bit thinner when we do X, Y, and Z. It's like, okay, yeah, like speaking my language, that makes sense. But yeah, I've always wondered about that. We have a question in the chat, says, how has the remote landscape changed things for the better or worse? Yeah, it was a big thing because I'd started and I'd done about 2 months, 2.5 in studio. And that's, you know, infinitely easier because you have the server, everyone can open everyone's files, everything's linked up. The security is not an issue because it's all based on like a pretty like lockdown area. And then we moved to remote, and I think that was like, you know, Perception worked with a couple people remote, like a few artists here and there, but never to the scale that we were going to do now. But yeah, for me, it was, or it still is sort of, it got messy because you're running and gunning, but also trying to like find the new folder structure and the new way of working, and like everyone kind of changed like on the fly as we found better ways of doing it. But it definitely was like, you know, we had to keep running, but also try to like build the track at the same time. But yeah, I'm curious on your side, Artem or Johnny, like how was that kind of jumping from being totally in studio to totally remote? Artem has a
Yes, Artem.
Raise your hand in the chat.
This actually was one of my questions because in Russia, freelance completely different, and I wanted to ask it in the first place. So when I came to America, for me was surprise freelance artists. They actually coming in at studio, and because when in Russia all freelancers they just work from home, and I came from freelancing in Russia, so for me it wasn't a surprise to work from home. And yeah, being in pandemic, we're totally fine for me. It was stressful being in America for me, and switch from Perception Studio when I was in a comfort and everybody was looking after me. But when I go to like find myself in freelance field, that was really stressful, like 3 months. I had to like open my bank account. I need to figure out all the taxes stuff. I need to approach all the studios and present myself like in a good way. Like, and I was presenting in this kind of English language you're hearing right now, and you used to hear it, but the other studios, they were kind of everybody smiling in America and saying like, you're good, but I see it, they bullshitting me. So and I told Johnny I had like 3 months of English lessons with South African guy, and Johnny was laughing at me because I wanted to improve my accent here. And yeah, but
I mean, all in all, you have a very easy to understand, like much better than my Russian is always my comparison.
Well, it's funny because you know, we're back to talking about Vlad again, but Vlad's English is, I think, dramatically surpasses yours, but your delivery.
Yeah, yes, because I don't know surpasses word. What is that?
Yeah, exactly. But your delivery of the language is excellent, and it's always felt very comfortable, and you always are making terrible jokes, which makes you sound more, you know, American and whatnot as well. But no, I always found your delivery of the English language to be exceptional. And it took a long time before I even like understood how little you understand in many different ways. But we were always very impressed with you, Artem, and like, you know, and I think a big part of that is just like, it's not your technical understanding of the language, but I think a lot of it is just your personality shining through in your communication. in a wonderful way.
Thank you, sir.
Jesus Christ. Jeff's question: how has the remote landscape changed things for better or worse? In my opinion, I'm a big advocate for remote. And when we went remote, it was pretty easy for me because I've always had like 2 or 5 people on the team that were not within the walls of the office while everybody else is. And that it's challenging if you're not used to it, but having a bit of experience with it made it a good bit easier for me to transition to it. We have a whole bunch of other issues and challenges at Perception with like confidentiality and secrecy around projects and all sorts of things that we had to institute, both in terms of technology and procedures and whatnot, in order to make sure that we're abiding by practices and requirements that some of our clients have and whatnot. But I still think it's a nice way of working. I do miss being able to just kind of like walk through the room and see something out of the corner of my eye on someone's computer that is usually either making me say like, holy shit, that's awesome, or like, holy shit, don't do that, and whatnot. But I'm also busier than ever, and so remote has helped me kind of like make sure that in my day I'm like keeping track with like every single different piece of the puzzle that's going on, as opposed to in the physical office. It might just sort of be like, if I'm having a really busy day, it might just be the luck of the draw if I even get to connect with someone on what it is that they're working on or what they're up to. But also for me, because the work in this industry can be demanding and can be challenging, and especially when you're doing intense deadlines, or especially on like film work or whatnot, if you have really intense deadlines and things around that, to me it's miles better to be doing that from home. And I mean, I tucked my kids in to bed and read them a story for the like 375th consecutive night last night. And I never would have thought that that was possible in this industry, because I've become so trained by and just adapted to the notion of like, well, when you have to, you gotta throw down extra hard. And there's times when you're at the studio until 10 p.m. or midnight, making shit happen, because you're in a tight spot and you're super dedicated to getting the project done for the client. And now I'm like thinking like, God, I spent like 15 years of my life doing that when I could have just been sitting at home, oh, I gotta check in on some stuff, or oh, I've got a 3-hour render that I'm waiting for, so I guess I'm not going home until this time. And instead just being like, no, I'm at home, I'll actually watch a movie while that render happens, or whatnot. To me, there's sort of no comparison, and I'm expecting that we'll continue to see a pretty big shift in the way that we work and the way that we live for the next decade or so before we settle into what like new normal will be.
Right. I think that, yeah, I miss the culture of it, and being able to like physically be in a space with new artists that would like come in as freelance, or I would come into a new studio. It's like, a lot easier to connect with people that way, because you're probably like desk mates with somebody, and you're gonna, like I was with Seiji when I was at like my first desk spot, and it's just, by happenstance of in proximity, eventually you guys are all getting coffee together, and then like all of a sudden you're like kind of in the crew, and then sharing ideas seems much more natural, so you kind of bounce things off each other. Whereas like it feels a little like, oh, I don't want to bother them with like a Slack DM about this issue I'm having, so I'll just struggle on my own and try to figure it out. Where it's like in the office, you're just like, why is this, why? And they're like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll help you out, or someone behind you will have an idea. It's just that sort of stuff I do miss. But yeah, because of the nature of our industry, like the last thing that we were on together was just like would have been about 4 times as brutal if we had to do it in office. But like, you know, when the late nights came, it's like, cool, yeah, I get to have my dinner for like an hour, like go back to work, then like, wife and dog go to bed, like tuck them in bed, like good night, and then, go back for the next like 4 hours and like hammer it out. And but like if that entire time I was like at the studio, like it just would have been like demoralizing to keep doing that versus, at home you can kind of like be like, what, I mean, the trade-off's not that bad because I get to, when I want to take a 15-minute break and like be at home, where it's like you can't instantly pop home when you're at the studio. So yeah, I would definitely say that most places I've worked at, it's like the pain of not being in office does not outweigh the joy of being at home.
Yeah, and I'm trying to figure out, and I'm open to, any ideas or suggestions, but I'm always trying to just figure out like how do we bring a little more of that like casual component into the work from home, and because that's the thing that I do definitely miss most in the studio is just like, somebody just like leaning back in their chair and shouting at the ceiling a question for anyone else in the room to answer. And I want to make sure that we're finding ways to do that on Slack or wherever we are, and it not having to feel like this formal thing of like, hey, anyone ever heard of this thing or whatnot? Because that's definitely the thing I'm missing most is just like some of the well, both like just literally like water cooler banter, but also the pieces of that end up being super relevant to the work that we do and end up spiraling into things that end up having a big impact on a project.
I'm missing the happy birthday songs in the office. Extremely awkward situations for me.
Whenever donuts, donuts would come in and then we'd ever like
I mean, I would say that that's the one thing that we have perfectly matched the awkwardness of over
on
Zoom
calls.
Yeah, we've done
it's Zoom calls. Oof.
Yeah, I don't know if Isaac, I don't know if you've joined them. Artem, I can't believe you don't remember this, but we've done numerous Zoom birthday calls and trying to sing happy birthday over Zoom, and Stanu busts out his guitar and whatnot. It's a train wreck of catastrophic proportion.
Okay, I guess I managed to carve up it from my mind.
I think I missed yours, Johnny, and then I like tried to get you to have one, and you're like, it was like 2 days ago. I was like, oh no, I'd actually missed that invite. But I've been on a couple of them where it's just that 0.5 second delay where it's just a cacophony of like different timings and notes at the same time.
I guess I have to interrupt you. In my Twitch account chat, there is like really active guy, and he's really funny, and he's moron as well in the same time. So the first comment from him, I hate expensive microphones for streams because you can hear every like sound like.
I'm so sorry.
And then he said, I love this dude in Johnny. He loves you because like, he just firing up from the notebook, but he uses this like funny curse Russian word, which became more like funnier. Sorry. Questions. I'm not going to make any jokes anymore.
Hold on. What was that? You got to explain to me what you were just describing to me.
The funny Russian curse word. I don't know, like fucking shooting, probably. You're gonna say like this guy just fucking shooting from his notebook microphone, something like that. He's saying that like your sound is really crap.
Oh. Yes.
See, Isaac, works.
So. Perfect.
Okay, he's saying no. My translation is okay. Also, he asked like, does anybody go to the gym? Because you guys look fucked up. 3 of us. Okay. Also, does Johnny...
Are we getting cyberbullied by Russians from your stream?
I guess he just messaging from like prison or something. Cause I don't know. He's really
Nice.
rude. Does Johnny plays any games?
Plays games with my emotions.
All right. That's it. No, I wish I had time to play games. I used to play games, particularly racing simulators, back in the day, but I don't have the time for it nowadays.
You're really big like Formula One guy, something. I was wondering about this Russian barber next to our office. He's the racing guy as well. But everybody gone from Manhattan, like, and how he can survive. You remember him? I forgot his name.
Yeah, Arthur. I meant to actually go visit him the other day. I was in the city because I went to check in at the office. It was my first time going into the city in a very long time. And I completely forgot to pop in and see him, but I saw the barber pole was spinning, so I assume he's in business.
I assumed he was not just actually doing only barber shop, because when I had some I've been there.
Please. Not here, okay? Not here, buddy.
Am I right? Because that was huge bag, and I don't think that was just like for haircuts. Okay, let's move on.
Okay, I have a question that I ask everyone. Do you have a hot take right now on any topic, Johnny or Artem, that you want to share? Design industry or not, just any hot take opinion that's been eaten away at you.
I assume you've had many other discussions about NFTs.
Last one with Billy.
I got a lot of questions about NFT now. What do you think?
I'm intentionally trying to keep my takes lukewarm on NFTs and not go off the deep end. So I don't want to get too into it. I think it's a wonderful and fascinating thing. I hate what it's done to my Twitter timeline. Like my Twitter timeline is now the cringiest shithole in the world. And I have a very high tolerance, as you can tell, for cringy awkwardness. And it's like intolerable at this point. But beyond that, I think it's super fascinating. I'm curious about it, and I'm constantly in my mind being like, maybe as everybody is being like, maybe I should see if I could make many thousands of dollars doing this. But for me, it's not. I haven't jumped to that side.
I would much have rathered it messed up my Instagram than my Twitter, because it was kind of nice and quiet. Like, there was a very specific Twitter motion design industry that I was in, and like I liked it, and like anything that was on my feed was normally like something I was like genuinely interested in. And then late 2020, just I started noticing lots of people joining. I was like, this is awesome, I wonder why this is. And then all that like stuff sort of rise to the top, and I've definitely been a part of it. And it's hard because like it's quite literally the only space that uses it or seems to have any like traction when like posted about. So it's like I just wish that there was another avenue that could trickle down and be just as successful, but give me my old Twitter timeline back.
Have you sold your cars picture?
No, I have not sold my cars picture. I put it for very expensive, so I don't expect it to sell for a good bit of time. But I sold one.
Artem, what's your NFT situation? I think of you as being someone that's on the bleeding edge of these things.
I did the same as you did. I just intentionally tried to like avoid all the news about that. I was really excited as well when it just started, and the same stuff with my Twitter timeline, with the Instagram. Just, hey, here's my first drop. But the one thing I want to say, it's really great thing for Russian artists, because like even if you sell your picture for 1 Ethereum, you can live like a king for a year in my hometown. And this is really great for them, like to avoid Russian clients, because mostly it's like either government or like we don't have like huge companies who can spend a lot of money on commercials as you guys in US have. Like here is like Coca-Cola, Apple, Google, all the automotive companies here. But yeah, in Russia you're not paying well being as motion graphic designer, and this is like really huge hope for the young artists, especially to start. But yeah, the
And at the same
insanity.
time, like that huge hope has got to be like, is the space hyper crowded now? Is it like oversaturated and a
Yeah,
lot of people are deeply, deeply disappointed?
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely say that I'm not like I'm a pessimist on a lot of things, and I just like would love to see the correction because I feel like it is obviously everyone's very excited and kind of overhyped it to an extent where I think it's not as sustainable. So I'm interested to see what the correction over the next like year or two is down to like what it may probably stay at. Um, Amazing if it keeps, being huge. A lot of friends that like personally who I've known who have like quite literally had their lives changed to like they only take freelance bookings they really love and they get to kind of just pay themselves out of their like earnings, which is super cool. But at the same time, there's lots of stuff that totally boggles my mind how anyone is excited about it and how it sells. And so I think it's just such a weird space, and especially bringing all the money talk to the space, which like, motion designers were very chill about sharing rates before kind of, and that was a big push in the industry. Like everyone should be more educated and get paid more, but like that is a little bit different than like watching a lot of your peers like make a yearly salary in a week and being like, oh, okay. That's weird because like we've worked on similar jobs. So like, should I try to make like my yearly salary in a week and like really go for it? Or what is like the space? And it's a little bit more like, front facing in that regard. So it's definitely an interesting space. I think that there are good and bad things about it, but I don't think that it's enough to like have someone totally swear off or totally have allegiance to them either way. I think a middle ground is a
Yeah, I
safe
mean, even
space.
even if it's a gold rush towards a bubble that's going to pop any second now, I still think like, well, yeah, get in on that, get it
Right.
while it's good. Be a lot better than looking back on it and being like, man, remember that 6 months or 18 months or 5 years where this thing was crazy. I wish I had at least taken a shot at that.
Yeah.
I'm curious about like trying to figure out like what's the if I was to get into that space, I would want to try and just figure out what's like a strategy for success there, and how do you make that happen. And it's I would put all my mental energy into trying to figure out like what's the perfect NFT to generate, when in reality probably the right strategy is just to like go in there and
Something.
make
Yeah.
everything, yeah, not just something, but just make everything, and then figure out which of those like things hits,
Right.
and then
Yeah. Everyone seems to
quadruple.
be an expert. And even though the space is so new, everyone like has their own idea of exactly what will work and what has worked. And it's like, oh, kind of just it's still like a superstition at this point because like there's just not enough data or like on like stuff to look back on and like definitively say something because every week like you know what was a perfectly sound stat 2 weeks ago has totally been upended now with like new data based on what is successful. So it's like I think that my kind of reasoning for getting into it was like I kind of just said that because a lot of these are invite only or you have to get accepted to list on their site and do it. So I was like, if I'll apply, and if I don't hear back, I don't hear back. And then if I don't get invited by a friend, I don't get invited by a friend. And I'll just like put that, worry on, just eventually it will happen. And when it does, maybe I'll get into it. And if it doesn't, I won't be upset. So that's kind of where I was in September of last year. Didn't hear anything all of that year from any of the places. So I was like, okay, I guess that's like not for me right now. And then just, a week ago, a friend invited me to one. So I was like, I guess this is it. So better get my stuff in gear to like try to list it. So I did. and I've been talking with a lot of other artists. Like you guys probably know, like Cornelius Damrich is like a big,
Yeah.
artist in the space who's done very well, and been talking with him and kind of getting his ideas on it. And for him, it took like a good 3 months before he even like got up and running to like where he had a pretty insane week or two where like he kind of like it all dropped and like started going in motion. So I think it's hard to have watch a space that you are pretty sure will go away, but also be patient in the space and just kind of like know that a lot of it's outside of your hands, because it's not like it's art directors or like people kind of collecting stuff and it's like, oh, what worked in motion design is like something that was good will work in this space is something that was good. It's like a lot of it's just like people who happen to have like cryptocurrency and like want to invest it in a different way. So it's a very weird space, very brand new, and if anyone's like claiming to be an expert, I would take it with a huge lump of salt.
I want to find the shitty thing that people will flock to and want to purchase. Like I want to make the NFT equivalent of the wooden signs that you hang up in your kitchen that say "Live, Love, Laugh" or something like that, and figure out what's the NFT.
Easy to produce, almost generative, just churn
That's
them
my
out.
that's my recipe for success, is make something as a joke and then see it be more successful than anything that I've ever legitimately cared about.
Yeah, the guy sold, the Murat Pak, probably Isaac, he sold the red pixel, just one square pixel. That's kind of art is great, but a transition to freelance for me became like the cure of not like lost my sane watching other people making money on NFTs, because like I spent a lot of nerves to being like proper freelance artist in America, and see, like I'm not a huge artist on Instagram who making like a lot of money just because they had audience before they started bidding NFTs. But people who had like the same followers as I have, they don't make like such a huge amount of money, but they still spend a lot of time. So they bidding their NFTs and they try to find collector in Twitter and message him to buy. And I don't think this is cool way to spend your time and instead of just being on the proper project.
Yeah, I think that it's weird because it's kind of hard to see the gold rush and not like want to get your piece of it. And I feel like it's just kind of made a lot of people like kind of just throw social norms out the door. Whereas like it would be very uncouth to do those sorts of like, hey, please buy this from me kind of messages to people in like normal life, but like for some reason this space has like allowed it because it's worked for a couple of people, so other people are like, I don't know, maybe I'll do that too. But yeah, it's a little weird to see, and that's what I don't like about my Twitter feed. And so I've muted a lot of people just so that like I can try to clear it out, or I made also a list of like stuff to try to bring back my old timeline. But I think it's just for the time being, we're just gonna have to let it sit there for a bit, and eventually it will calm down and stuff. But who knows? Hard to make a prediction.
Do you know people at Perception who did many NFTs? Johnny?
There's you remember Alex?
Alex Manrica, yeah, he's done a ton.
He's been very successful in the space. I should note he's also no longer working at Perception, which might be a coincidence. But yeah, he's been doing some cool stuff, and I think he kind of stumbled into the space, if I understood correctly, and was in it very, very early on. So I think that's I'm super excited to hear about just the success that he's had in there, and just even how for him it wasn't like some insane explosive success, but it's been something that's proving to be, at least at the moment, somewhat evergreen for him.
Right. I think that he was telling me about it, like, and he was before the big Beeple drop that happened that brought a ton of eyes to it, so he was like there for like couple months before that. So like very, very new into the space, and kind of I was like talking to him a bit on our Slack about it, and I was just like, I don't quite understand it. And then obviously everything happened, and lots of eyeballs came to it, and I was like, hey, what was that thing you're explaining to me, and where should I sign up to do those things, because it looks like a good space. He's done a lot.
But he got to Micro's place, which is great to be in. It's almost
he was on there early.
It's almost impossible to get there.
Yeah. Do you have any other questions coming through? I realized that I pulled up your chat just to realize it's entirely in Russian, and I don't know why I pulled it up because I can't read any of this.
You don't want to read any of it. There's lots of terrible, horrible things.
Yeah, we discussing that, like like you guys don't like these silly jokes. I know Johnny does, and he's just bullshitting us on the internet now, but he really likes stupid, silly jokes. I had the pleasure to do them in your office just without any internet connection. Oh, it sounds really bad, but whatever.
What? What did you do in my office without internet connection? What do you... Oh, you mean you were able to verbally deliver jokes to me in person?
Right.
Yes. Did you find the rest of the stickers? Oh no, we left the office at the same time, I guess.
Yeah, you know what? I did a thorough, hunt through all my stuff, and I don't think I found any more stickers. So Artem and I have a game that we play with each other, and it's that we share a friendly gesture with one another and try to surprise each other with it whenever we can. Which is just lovely. It's been one of my favorite things.
Extremely professional.
Together, yeah. It helps to keep everything nice and sophisticated for us when we're working together. Did I lose you guys? My feed drop.
Oops.
I think I'm having some bandwidth issues.
Now it's
red. Is that better? It's red. Why is it red? Oh, it's red because Artem right there. That one's
somehow you guys switched spots on my stream, like because you left and you came back, and now your titles are switched. I don't know how.
Oh, perfect.
So you're Artem. So
hey, look at me. I'm Artem. I'm a very funny guy.
Hey, look at me. I'm Johnny. I'm
everybody want to know my bank account. Let me here. Right, put it up.
I got a new one. I'm totally safe right now for a while, until anybody asks me again about that. So we're wrapping up, I guess, right?
Yeah. One of the last questions that I normally ask people are, what is your Everest project? Which I don't know if that will make sense to you, Artem, but what is your big dream project to work on?
Johnny wants to direct the Fast and Furious movie.
Yes, really? I want to direct a Fast and Furious movie. I've been really fortunate in that I've had an opportunity to have some of these kind of wow, that's something I've always wanted to do kind of projects, and one of them was the work that we had done for Black Panther, which for me was both creating a cool technology paradigm that felt really distinct and different from whatever else we've seen, and also making a title sequence that was doing what to me the holy grail of title sequence is for us as designers, is something that's beautiful and interesting and clever, but also pushes some technical boundaries for us personally and whatnot. So we had that. You guys know I'm a big car geek, and I love all the automotive stuff. Many years back, we got to work on designing the instrument cluster for the Ford GT, which was just that was for me total dream as a kid, and got to go to Ford and go into this like secret underground studio that like the people that were working above it didn't even know was there, and see this vehicle that wasn't going to come out for 2 more years, and get involved in something that was like super super exciting along those lines. So, for me, there's part of me that's like, oh shit, does that mean like it's all downhill from here and there's nothing else, fun left to do? um I'm still interested in trying to get into something that is in the kind of like the Imagineer space. If you think of like the Disney Imagineers, and creating these really ambitious and really wild physical experiences. I think there's some pretty neat stuff there that I would like to get into. And otherwise, I'm just interested in continuing to kind of like bounce back and forth between the future of technology in film, and then also the future of technology for real human beings.
That's cool. Artem, what about you?
Yeah, I think it's directing something as well. But in motion graphic field, it would be like a title sequence, but not just an artist, but put some ideas. I just finished the book 1984, and I made a lot of sketches on the, like, imagine it's a TV show or something. Maybe sometime I will do like in my personal project, but you know how it works for motion graphers. Everybody has their personal projects, and now they are NFTs. Yeah, Johnny like far ahead of me on like completing his dreams. I still like have a lot of them. So yeah, what about you?
Yeah, Isaac, what's
I don't know. I think it's sort of the cliche one of just like a main title of an IP that I really care about would probably be like up there. Like in my head, I know that it's not on the books yet, but I would love to do like the next Tron main titles or something like that. Just like an IP that I think is like, or like Star Wars or like any of those. It's just like kind of just to get it on like your like a portfolio, and just like kind of go through the experience of that sort of thing. And then after that, I don't know, probably like directing something that's like my own idea from like my own IP, or being able to jump on like franchise or something. But I don't know, I think that those are always just so cool to be working with like these long standing legacies of stuff with so much like rich history, and getting to like be this like responsible of that, I think is always a fun, cool thing. But yeah, it's pretty cliche at this point to say I want to do a main title or like a main on end, but they're still so cool. You guys got to do that pretty recently. Was that fun? I think that like WandaVision at least was like crazy because I wasn't expecting that, but then like Falcon and the Winter Soldier stuff was crazy because I helped pitch on that, and then to see like exactly how it ended up was like so crazy because I literally saw like the 1 week rush to do it of like all the ideas, and then like nothing, and then the final one was like, oh wow, that's like I can see like where there were like the bits and pieces of stuff that like even on our calls, Johnny, where you're like, I don't know, something like this one idea that was like one sentence ended up really informing other stuff down the line. So I think that was really cool. And Artem, you got to work on those too. How did like kind of all that stuff?
I guess I was just helping here and there on this Winter Soldier. I did all this. I don't know, Johnny, did they change the like between the scenes when like it's location pins or something? I did.
Yeah, the locators.
Locators, yeah, I did only that one. So it was much more fun on Black. Can I say that, Johnny? The Asian girl with the red head.
Technically no, but yeah, there's so
I work on that, and that was more fun because like I was in charge of.
Yeah, you made some really rad stuff for that other thing. So there's WandaVision, there's Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and then there will be more stuff in the,
In
throughout the
May,
rest of the
right? I think,
year.
right? That's when they might have.
I don't know anymore. I think everything keeps changing and whatnot. It's been interesting, yeah, because there's been some films that we've worked on, and then there's been some TV shows that we worked on after working on the films, and of course the TV shows have all come out, and the films are all perpetually getting delayed and later and later.
Was it cool to see kind of like because WandaVision was like a weekly thing that came out? Do you think that like it was more interesting to see that like people were connecting with it more because like they were watching it like kind of week to week and like trying to hide or like see all the connections that you guys had sprinkled throughout there, or was
Yeah,
that
that was super fun for us because we're used to just making them at the end of these films,
Mhm.
and when it's at the end of the film, everyone's finished with the experience and
Yeah.
whatnot. The fact that they're releasing these a week at a time, there's like this week long period, at least for the die hard super fans, which we're very fortunate that
Mhm.
these properties have a really rabid fan base. During that period of time between episodes, everybody's speculating and talking about it and whatnot. And so with WandaVision, there was that. There was also with WandaVision, it had been, something like 18 months or whatnot since a Marvel property had been
Mhm.
released just because of the pandemic. So I think there was also a lot of like pent up demand, and it was just exciting to see everybody thrilled about that. And then on top of that, with WandaVision, like the show is so committed to this motif of being this retro, this very authentic retro sitcom, that the title sequence at the end of the episode was one of the only pieces of the episode that felt like traditional MCU. So I felt
Right.
like, I'm always very proud of the work that we do on these things, and I think our team does an unbelievable job on them. But I also never discount the fact that like we get a lot of extra love just because it's associated with these
Mhm.
enormous beloved properties, and so it's always fun to see that response. With Falcon and the Winter Soldier, that piece turned into sort of like Easter egg central, and I can't go super in depth with it, but there's a lot of really fun little nuggets that we tucked into that thing. And I think you know probably 4 hours after it premiered at midnight or whatnot, like every single one of those things was listed somewhere on the internet and flagged, and people were, creating theories and
Mhm.
whatnot based off of that stuff. So it's been fun for us, and it's also been kind of like an education in now we approach these things very much with this mindset of like, how do you design a title sequence so that over the course of the season, it means something different to
Mhm.
you every time that you rewatch it, hoping that people are actually watching it and not just, skipping ahead to the next episode or whatnot, but that week by week, you're all of a sudden like, oh, now this shot actually, makes a little more sense to me and is kind of unraveled some of the story some more. And of course, at the same time, without it spoiling anything.
Yeah, I think that Disney also found their stride in like knowing that about their fan base and kind of sticking that extra scenes after the credits so that like it wasn't
Yeah.
like, yeah, the experience is over and like I'll just flip it off. Like there were things inside the credits that like helped inform things that were in the secret scenes after the credits. So like it just made sense to watch all of it. And then like even though you'd seen it once, you had new context every episode. So watching it again, you're like, oh, okay. I thought that was just like a fun transition, but I see when the whole thing like does this movement, it's like, oh, it's because it's referencing something we just saw. And so like I watched it like every single time, mainly because, you know, didn't want to skip past it because I, like the work and I try not to do that. But the other thing was that like there were new things to find. Plus I knew there was a scene after it most of the time. So I think that they did a really good job with that. Um, a lot of places don't really think that like thoroughly through like making people watch like stuff or like the skip button has been a big hot topic in our industry where Netflix like encourages viewers to kind of just jump past a ton of work that people did. But I think that the main on end for those were like just super cool to see. But yeah, I think that we can wrap it up here. We've been almost going for 2 hours almost, which is kind of crazy. Yeah, anything else that you wanted to add, Artem, before we
The quick story about One Division, and I want to ask Johnny to tell this story. Do you know this story about I was in a team with Doug and pitching titles so they have like different titles for each time zone, or how it's not time zone, right? It's time area, whatever.
Time area.
You don't know this story. So, okay, it's about my English again. I did like 27 versions of the titles saying One Division. Because I was tasked by the phone, so Doug just called me, and I didn't know the name of the project. It was a secret name. And I didn't know the actual name, One Division. And he told me, we need to do like One Division titles. And I did One Division, like 27 versions of this title. And I spent like 5 hours something, and he just responded to me, thank you, Artem. Thank you very much. But then he sent me the Twitter of some American guy, like native English speaker, and he said like, doesn't it sound like One Division? And I said, yes, it is. And I have titles for that if you need.
That's funny.
Excellent.
Cool. Well, this was super fun. It was also just fun to see you all again. Makes me feel like I'm
it's great to, it's been a while since we've chatted, Isaac, and hopefully we'll have you back in the mix soon to collaborate on some cool stuff. And Artem, we miss you, buddy. It's it's been too long, but I hope life is treating you well.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you everybody for stopping by on both of the streams. It's been super fun to have you all. Thanks for all the questions. And this will be up on YouTube, sometime next week if you want to watch it there. But yeah, I think that's a good spot to wrap. Cool.
Yeah. Thank
See
you,
you next
everybody.
time.
Ребята, всем пока. Johnny, you wanna hang out for a minute?
Sure.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm gonna
Close all my stuff.
Yeah.